Welcome to another episode of the Say It Sister podcast, brought to you by Wise Women Lead founders Karen Harris-Kelly and Lucy Barkas.
This is your space for real, unfiltered conversations about womanhood, the messy, the magical, and everything in between.
We're called upon to name the taboos, stigmas, stereotypes, and lies that keep us stuck, so that we can rise and reign like queens.
We open up spaces and deepen relationships that bring us closer to love and a better world for all. So get comfy, grab your favourite drink, and let's say it, sister. Welcome to Say It Sister, the podcast where we have the modern day conversations women really need to have. The ones about power, our wisdom, and the truth that lies beneath the surface. And it's Halloween or Samhain, the night of witches and shadows and transformations, and I can't think of a better time to talk about what it means to face our fears, step into our true leadership, and take off the mask. But if you trace it back, it wasn't always about ghosts and witches. It's actually one of the most feminine festivals in the wheel of the year. It's about endings and beginnings, death and rebirth, and letting go of what no longer serves us, so that we can grow.
Traditionally, women lit fires, dressed up and disguised themselves to ward off the spirits of darkness. Women have been doing something similar for generations. We've learned to hide our power, to disguise our truth, and to protect ourselves from judgment or fear. Yet this season reminds us the dark isn't something to run from. It's something to move through with intention, to meet it with courage, with ritual, and with light. So this episode, we're talking about transition, truth, and the fire that burns within every woman, the one that never truly goes out, even when the darkest of times happen. We're ready to say it, sister. We're ready to dive in. Let's start with talking about our masks, the masks that we wear, the masks of Halloween. It almost feels like a perfect metaphor. You know, for many years we, wore our identities that kept us safe. I think we're still doing that in the world, and maybe more so now than ever. The professional face that we wear, the mum, the reliable one, the people pleaser. But underneath, there's often a part of us that's longing to be seen, that wants to be fully out, fully in her power and fully in her truth. But it can be quite scary, especially if it's not something that we've been doing every single day. Because of that, we need to learn our truth, and we need to make a conscious decision to show people who we really are. And that can mean unmasking. What about you, Lucy? Where do you go with that?
Yeah, I've worn many masks over the years. Most of it is just to be able to try and fit in and feel safe in that environment. And the important bit for me was to be able to unmask throughout the day, whether that was during my lunch breaks or when I got home and just could, it's almost like taking your bra off at the end of the day. It's just like, oh, I can be me again. And I never changed myself completely. I always felt like I was being my authentic self, but we all know that we all have many parts of ourselves. But there were definitely times when I wanted to scream or rage or tell somebody they were being stupid, but I put the mask of professionalism on, or the good girl mask, or it's the good girl, but maybe the dumb blonde mask sometimes came on. So when I didn't want to be too assertive or too overpowering, I'd almost like dim my light just to fit in. And I'd always then berate myself afterwards, because like, why did I do that? Why did I play small to make them feel bigger? So I think that's when those masks really harmed me. But I think it's fine to bring out different, almost like crew members who are your authentic self, but when you're actually putting the mask on to hide parts of yourself or to pretend you're somebody you're not, that's when it gets really dangerous.
Yeah, the visibility thing is huge, actually. And, we're all about like, show up, take the spotlight, use your voice and all these things. This is what we're doing in our own lives as well. So we're embodying that. But it is a process, and it does come with like a lot of sort of letting go and peeling away the layers. And I mean, I've just recently done a piece of work that was around, there was a part of me, 7-year-old me, who really is not okay with being visible. She really isn't happy about it at all. So every time I step into like the bigger piece or the bigger picture again, and I take that next step, like I've owned my voice now, But like coming further out into the world, you know, going from speaking up to showing up fully still requires work for me. And when I get the sort of alerts on the inside, it's like there's a part of me that's not happy and not okay with it. So I need to go in and help her because this is very important as a woman in the world today. And I realized that I was given a role when I was 7 that was to fit in. And that little 7-year old has been carrying that with her all this time. And the idea was that she would have this role for the whole of her life. And now, as a 49-year-old woman, I'm like, that's not where we're going, sweetheart. You know, that was never your job to fit in, was never your job was to be you. Your job was to, I'm getting emotional, show the world who you are, what you're here to do, to grow, to learn, to enjoy life. There's so many different layers to it. Not the job that I took on as being something that was my lifelong thing. So I've had to take some care of her and listen to her, and you know, and I will be doing that probably for the rest of my life, because when you thought your job was to do something from 7 to, you know, most of my life, that's a big lot of unlearning that needs to happen. And that little girl, bless her little heart, you know, like to just be able to say, you know, it's okay, I've got you. You don't need to take that role on. We're not going there. We are going to stand up and show up. So that's just one example, you know, that we've all got these examples, haven't we? I think when we get the feeling, for me, it's about, oh, what's happening? If we're out of alignment in any way, that's when we need to go in and do some more personal work. That much I know.
It's fascinating because you're talking about your 7-year-old self, and of course, your daughter is reaching that time in her life. And it may be because I found this myself at the different stages that my daughters went through, and I could remember the pain that I went through, or the excitement, the enchantment, the things that I used to love to do, the opinions, the beliefs. And so it's really powerful as a mother when you look at your own children and see what they're going through and think, what was happening for me at that time? And I did a lot of secret self work, especially through my coaching education, but also through the women's circle that I do with a lot of the EFT tapping. And we did the inner child piece. And for me, it goes back to about maybe 4 or 5 years old. And the story that she told herself and the mask that she put on was that you don't want to cause any trouble. You don't want to ask for help. The grown-ups have got a lot of stuff going on. They're dealing with their adult stuff. So you just hide in the corner, and yeah, be a good girl, but almost like just be hyper independent so you're no bother to them. And that is a story that I carried through my whole life, of the mask of the super independent, powerful one. I don't need help from anyone. I can slay any dragons. Oh my God, it was exhausting. It got me really far ahead, but it was a lonely and tiresome journey. So that's definitely a mask I needed to put down. So thank you for that reminder, because every now and then it creeps back in.
Yeah, it does. And these things will continue to do that. And I think it's the awareness point that we always talk about, you know, like when we recover back inside ourselves and we listen to what's happening, and then we get the awareness and go, that's an old part of me. Okay, so what can I do about that now? And then we start to sort of do our personal work. I mean, we're both expert coaches and facilitators. So we have all the tools. You know, we also know the right people to work with. For me, I go to Helen House, who is my coach, you know, so I'll pull her in and we'll do the work so she can hold the space for me. And then I go, wow, that's incredibly different. You know, now I feel different on the inside because I have the awareness point. The other thing to say is that women got burnt at the stake. Men never got burned at the stake. So there is something in the feminine psyche where we have this understanding of how women have been treated throughout the years, throughout the decades, you know, for standing up, for being slightly different. You know, they didn't burn the farmers who were also working with the land, you know, because they were men. But any woman who was linked into the land was seen as, you know, a witch. And if you think about the color black, those women who were wearing the black, the vision of the witches, were probably widows. They might have been spinsters, and maybe they never married, and hence why they wore black. You know, so they were unprotected women, and they were easy targets. So there's just that kind of sits inside me when I think about how women have been treated. makes me go like, ooh, my heart's already getting a little bit tight from just even hearing that, because the likelihood is I could have been one of those women. So when we know that things don't always work out well, it's like, well, actually that did happen. This is not the thing of like, it's not a story. It happened. Then it's like, well, this has happened before. Can it happen again? Or maybe I will just, like retire into the background and I won't do that thing. And we're not thinking that consciously. Of course, we're not like out in our everyday lives thinking, oh, the witches will burn, so maybe I'll just stay quiet because I don't want to get into trouble for anything. We don't think like that because we're living our lives. But there is a whole thing in the background that gives us information that we go, oh, maybe it's not appropriate, maybe it's not right.
And in the relationship systems coaching, we talk about the different roles or the masks. But if I use the word roles, and we do a lot of triggered self or secret self work because that comes up. But we also talk about ghost roles, which is kind of timely for the day that it is. But what we mean by ghost roles are those that are from the past that are not relevant today, but the echoes are still there and influencing. And so our inner child, if it's unhealed, it's still part of the triggered self, but once healed, it becomes a ghost role and it will still pop up, but you recognize it like, that's what it is. I'll soothe her and then we can move on. But the witch wound is very much a ghost role because it has gone through generations, and we've heard it in our Disney stories, in our all of our storybooks that we read, the tales that were told. It's probably in music and in movies. It's literally a ghost role that is actually very present in our time, and every single time it is a warning. And of course, we have the idea of the white witch, but she's always blonde and she's always a little bit, there's no real power there. It's just all light and fluffy. And actually, let's face it, women, we are both light and dark. We can be gnarly and ragey and spiteful and gritty, and we can be soft and fluffy. And so it's about recognizing that these ghost roles are with us now, but the narrative that goes around them, is it really useful now? And you can see behind me, for those who are watching on the video, I've got a few little of my witchy things up, because actually they're just like rituals and roles and things that make me feel safe. And you come into my home and it's like all those things that actually 4 centuries ago I'd have been burnt for this. I'd have been persecuted for lighting candles on certain days, etc. And there's definitely a new movement towards reclaiming it. But I'd really like to understand, when you're working with clients, and whether it's these ghost roles or these masks that come up, what do you do with them? You can use me as as
Well,
a role, really, if you want
I
to.
actually have something where you actually have a real mask. Like there is a mask, like if I
Well,
was doing a workshop,
I've got this that I can put on. A
you know,
scarf.
yeah. And it's like, in a workshop, there would be a mask presented and given, and it would be like, so, time to reflect. But like, what is the outward mask, the mask that we project into the world, the way that we want to be seen? So for me, it's like a good mom, kind heart, kind, open, successful, good wife, um, organized, perhaps is in there, and you kind of go through that. So it's like, this is how I want you to see me, and you will have your version of that. And then I get them to turn the mask around. So that's the outward mask, and you do that. And it's like, what's on the inside? So what's the mask on the inside? The things that you don't want people to see about you or know about you. Like for me, I'm terrible with dates and times and numbers. So I would hide that because I wouldn't want someone to think I couldn't do business, because I can. I have a really strange ear. Like this ear is like pointed, and I've hated it all my life. So I've put my hair over here, right? Sometimes I do pin it back because I'm much more open these days, and it doesn't bother me like it did, but it will be like pointy ear. And you go through it until you get all of this out, and you go, so I show this, I fear this, I don't want people to know this, and it can be anything. Then I go, right, so they wear the mask, and they talk about the mask, and you take the mask off, and you put it down, and then you're like, so what's left? Like, what's here now? And it's like, what is beneath? What is the essence? What is the soul self? What is the emotional self? Like, who are you? What are your, like, what are you here to do? Like, what's behind? When that comes off, what's left? And that's when it gets really juicy and exciting and liberating. And I'm already getting excited about that, because that, for me, that's where the work is. And a lot of women I work with, they know that part of them, and they go, you know what, I'm going to be okay because I know this part of me. They also know the other parts of them, which helps them to be aware and awake and understand why they're behaving a set way or whatever. So, yeah, but we need those cues, don't we? Something that's visible, that's like, not just thinking it through in our heads, because we get lost in that world. Anything where we get to create something and have it so clear, and then the mask goes home with them.
Love
They
that.
have it on their desk or wherever they want, in their bedrooms or whatever, because it's like, I'm choosing to put this mask back on today. I'm choosing to hide these pieces, and I'm choosing it. And that's okay, because there's times when we need to wear the mask, and I'm good with that. However, I'm also going to choose at times to take that off and just not do that. And that's okay too. What's coming up for you?
Well, I was getting these memories of the early days of Zoom and Teams when the world had to go online. And for me, this little square where you see is like, it's always staged really beautifully because that's how I want to project. Whereas if I turn the camera around, you'll actually see just how messy and chaotic my real life, my mind actually is. And I always remember I was doing workshop, and one of the senior, well, it was the boss of this team, came on, and halfway through she had this absolute terror because she'd realised her clothes horse was behind her and her underwear was on it. And we turned it into such a learning opportunity, but she was mortified. And it was just like, we all have underwear. We all have, clothes horses around the house. And it was almost like accepting you can be more human with us. But it was a real learning point because this little window, and I mean, you've got a screen behind you. I know what's behind the screen. But yeah, that's something you don't want the rest of the world to see. And there's nothing sinister there. It's just like, this is how I want to show up. So that's what came up for me. Is a very visual thing that we actually all do all the time. The number of people that used to turn up to work in a shirt on the top, but then because they were on Zoom, they'd be in silly Shrek slippers and their loungewear, and they didn't want to show that part. So we all do it every day because we want to fit in, but there's always part of us that comes out. And I remember when we did our coach training way back when, and we had to do that off key. So what part of us sometimes comes out, but we think we're trying to hold it all together. And mine was actually the wag. So sometimes I could be a bit ditzy, and apparently I was always walking in because I'd forgotten my handbag or I'd forgotten where I'd put something. And I thought I was trying to like hold it all together, but actually these little like bum notes come out all the time. And then it's, rather than feeling the shame about it, being able to just say, yep, that's part of me. And that's when I think vulnerability comes into it. Um, Rather than feeling ashamed of that messy, untidy, outspoken part of you, whatever the thing is, just say, yeah, it's part of me.
And
Whoops, and have a laugh about it.
it's a celebration point as well. I mean, it's reminded me of when I had Catalina, and like in those early days and months, and the house is chaotic because there's washing everywhere, and you've got like a child. And for me, that went on until she was about 3. And when I look back at all the videos, you can see all the carnage in the background. There's like what, because my mum's obsessed with washing, so she would come and like do like a week's worth of washing in one go. So there's washing everywhere, and it just makes me laugh so much. But also, I can see the love and the fun that was happening, and like
Yes.
the celebration. And, it was actually a really messy time. And I look back, because I'm quite a clean, tidy, I like a little bit OCD. So for me, that was quite a big thing. But it's in all the videos and it's all on my socials. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it was like. You know what I mean? And I
And you
didn't
survived and
care.
it was fine.
I didn't care at the time, but looking back, I go, and it's that, isn't it? It's like, sometimes we're not aware of it and sometimes we are aware of it. But there's a truth to it as well, because those things that we're trying to hide, they are parts of us. And
Yeah,
trying to
absolutely.
deny it is almost like really quite harsh. And I think, when sometimes things sit in the shadow, and it's like, well, don't open that box, don't go into the shadow, don't look at, don't go into the darkness. And it's like, we have to do that work. Otherwise it consumes us. So I'm with you on that. I'm like, we we need to celebrate who we fully are. And
Loving the conversation? Make sure you follow us on your favourite podcast app. And if something resonates, share it on your socials or with a friend who really needs to hear it.
we'd love to hear your stories too. Find us on Instagram at Say It Sister Podcasters and at Wise Women Lead. And let's keep the conversation going, because your voice matters here.
And it's really funny that my name, Lucy, means the bringer of light. And I remember learning that probably, 20 years ago. And I was like, yes, that is absolutely me. I am literally the most optimistic, sunshiny kind of person. And it almost became my identity. Until then, I started to look at some of the darker sides of me in the shadow work. And it was almost like I felt a betrayal to myself, because taken this role as the bringer of light, the light, sunny, shiny person, full of colour. And it was really scary going to have a look at those darker sides. And, the darker sides are that when I'm tired, I can be really gnarly, and I can, and sometimes during my cycle, I can just shout at my kids without any reason, because it just comes out of me. Sometimes, well, quite a lot, I get really ragey at news stories, and I want to go on, rants and raves about it, and I hold myself back because I've done that in my ill-equipped 20s, but I'd suppressed it so much that I just didn't do it. And now I'm allowing that darkness, and I say darkness, but it's that warrior, that advocate, that activist element of me, and I'm letting her out, but now I've got the skills to do it. And so actually going through my dark side and doing the shadow work has really made me feel so much more complete as a person. And there were also things then that, almost like the fake light that I was giving, that I've almost had to blow out, almost let die and throw out and say, no, that was a mask. That was an identity thing that I put out to protect myself. I don't need that anymore. So when you're working with clients and you come up to this stage where people are recognizing parts of themselves that are not serving them anymore, they need to let them die. How do you support them getting to the stage where they're ready to break the ties almost?
I think it's about feelings for me, like getting into the feelings, because I was really good at flipping my own narrative, so I grew up learning, if something's negative, turn it into a positive. If something, and we see a lot of that around mindset work these days, don't we? Where people, I've done some of these trainings and thought, oh my God, it's so out of alignment with, you go on something and it's about your free thing, and you go on and they're not coaches and they're talking about what's your money mindset, for example, and they go into well, money is whatever, and then turn it into a positive, but there's no substance behind that.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is parrot style telling yourself the opposite to what you really believe, and it just doesn't work, because
Faking it till you make it.
it's there's a piece of work that needs to be done around that is much deeper, and
Yeah.
your brain has not got the answers, and you can't just changing your language can really help in some ways, to be fair, because there's a positive vibration that comes out with positive words. So
It's not fundamentally changing you, is it? And your belief system.
There's something in that which I think.
Yeah, neuro-linguistic programming was all the rage in the 90s and early noughties, because there was substance, but it was used as the holy grail. But it's part of the solution. It's not the solution.
It's not, because there is the deeper journey in all of us where we go, I have these beliefs that have driven me into wearing this mask. And they're based on experience, and I've been doing it now for 20, 30, 40 years. And so now I realise that's totally defunct. You can't just flip it. You have to do the deeper work. So for me, it's a process. And I'm always we step in each session at a time, and we build on it, and we do the work, and we start to unravel it, and we cut the cords of it, and we get really clear on the impact, what it's giving you and what it's costing you. Because we don't do things if we don't get some kind of payoff. I think humanity and human beings, we have got we might behave. It's like being the victim. It's well, if I do the victim story, I know that I'm going to get sympathy. So that's what I get. But actually what it costs me is my sense of power, that I, can handle life, that, people are going to use me all the time. That's really, really an awful place to live. So we've got to make sure that we understand what it's giving us, but also really, really sort of get very clear on what the costs are and what we really want. Because we're not born like.
And what I found really interesting over the last, I'd say 10 years in particular, maybe even 5 years, there's been a huge movement towards all generations getting back into witchcraft. And there's the whole, witches of Instagram, witch talk, and, whether it's saying prayers or spells, teaching you about the different cycles of the year, talking about intuition and our senses, the goddess power. And there's all of this coming through. And so many women that I'm talking to are actually secretly doing the education or the practices or doing some little rituals. And where before it was seen as something dark and sinister, actually it's now being viewed as something that's really feminine and empowering. And it's almost like the backlash to the misogyny that we're facing. We're like, okay, if you're going to put us in this box, we're going to live it fully and really embrace all of that femininity, the positive, and maybe a little bit of the darker side of the feminine. And for me, that's kind of like what feminine leadership really does look like. It's about saying, I am all of these parts and I'm going to practice all of them and almost live out loud. And it might not be saying it out loud, but in your own homes, living it out loud and practicing it. Have you noticed this trend?
Well, I was doing women's circles, creating my own courses, which were very much around divine feminine and things like sourcing and rituals, all the work that I love to do. I was doing that in 2015 because I did my leadership training program with CTI, and I just thought there's just so much I can be out there doing with women. So I started off with the Goddess Power workshop that I did like 9 or 10 times, and then it evolved into my tribes. So I had these women's tribes, and so I've got, I did all of that, and I did so many tribes, and then a master tribe. So I was out doing this work. It's sort of slightly ahead of the game, which tends to be the way I do it. And I saw the impact and I saw the power and I saw the magic, but I also saw how beautiful and kind the work was. Like, we are not, like, there was nothing negative or sinister or scary in it. And I think that's where I get annoyed, because I think the smear campaign, it's really just about stopping women from connecting to their bodies, to their wisdom and to their power. Basically, that's it. So anything that slightly looks like, sounds like, feels like, that domain gets a smear attached to it. And that for me is the bit that really, really upsets me and makes me angry. And, if I look at my house, if anyone came in, they'd be like, okay, lock her up, because there's crystals everywhere and all of that. And now this is mainstream. I've always been like that, but this is mainstream, which I really celebrate. But clearly there are portions of society that are extremely, extremely threatened by the fact that women want to further their own development even more than where they already are. So, like, we've got to certain points, and perhaps men felt emasculated as we found our voices and our power. Certain types of men, not all, found themselves feeling emasculated as the focus was more on women. And now we've got this backlash and we're seeing what's happening, and it's happening really fast. So we as women need to continue to do the beautiful work that we do, be the beautiful women that we are, come back into our hearts, take care of our needs, and keep going. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
Not to shut ourselves off and down. Like, we'll do it with discernment, we'll do it with the women who want to do it with us, and be part of the tribe. Word is a big word, isn't it? But for me, it's just about community. We come back
Yeah.
to community and we see each other and we hold each other. And I don't mean we can be physical, but like, we are supporting, when we say, we're supporting each other and we are acknowledging each other and ourselves. How is that dangerous? Like, I've got goosebumps now, because I'm like, there's nothing dangerous about this work. There's nothing dangerous about connecting to the cycles of the year. There's nothing dangerous about having a
Absolutely.
crystal. Like, it is ridiculous.
I've spoken about this many times before, but every month I go to a women's circle, and it's basically women just sitting around in a circle, and we do a few rituals and processes just to get us into the zone of just like taking off that all of the different roles and masks and expectations and just be really present with each other. We don't ask each other our names. If we want to connect afterwards, we can, but actually, I don't know most of those women's names, and different women come and go. And we always have a round of just sharing what's going on in our lives, and we don't have a conversation about it. We just are heard. And it is so powerful just to be able to talk your truth in a safe space and just be held. And then we always do, from those conversations, we do some EFT together to release whatever has come up. And I honestly ride on that feeling for the next month, because it's just something about this community, this togetherness, this not having to pretend to be anybody that you are. And I think we all need to give ourselves permission. And yet it may have been witchcraft, but generally it's just women gathering. It's really not
Listen
that
to each other. I
dangerous.
mean, honestly, it's so ridiculous. We listen to each other. We are kind to each other. We support each other. We'll release some of the negativity that we're carrying. And then we go back out into the world
Oh,
and do
how
the same for
scary.
it. I mean, we definitely need locking up for that, don't we? It's
Yeah.
just
So
wild.
I'm actually going to ask you, because you are trained in EFT, and I want to give the listeners almost like a taste of what this might look like, so that they can step into their own leadership whenever they want, whenever they are in the moment. Are you up for that?
Always up for it. You know me. I like to say yes. Um, yeah, okay, so let's do that. So we're kind of moving out of the outward and upwards into a bit more of the inwards and downwards. I'm just going to get my feet on the ground. So I'm going to start. We're going to tap. We're going to do the thymus tap, which is basically just to get our vitality moving in our bodies and also release stress. So that's just here in the center of the chest. And I will say first round, and then you say your name and you follow. Okay. I am Karen Harris Kelly. I
I
am
am Lucy Bar.
49.
Sorry, that's me getting too excited. You start again.
I will do it like that, like you did it. I am Karen Harris Kelly.
I'm Lucy Barkus.
I am 49.
I'm 48.
I am a woman.
I am a woman.
I am a mother.
I'm a mother.
I am a wise woman leader.
I'm a wise woman leader.
I am love.
I am love.
I am here now.
I am here now.
I am powerful now.
I am what?
Powerful now.
Yes, I am powerful now.
So we can stop the tapping. Put your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your womb. And you can close your eyes if that feels good. And we'll do it again. I am Karen Harris Kelly.
I am Lucy Barkus.
I am 49.
I am 48.
I am a woman.
I am a woman.
I am a mother.
I am a mother.
I am a wise woman leader.
I am a wise woman leader.
I am love.
I am love.
I am here now.
I am here now.
And I am powerful now.
And I am powerful now.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Take a deep breath. And then give your spine a wiggle. I can
I
see your
love
face.
it.
Your face was like softening in front of my
Oh, I love it. I love it.
eyes.
I love it. Every time I go through a process like that, it just keeps me really rooted and returning to myself in that moment. And there's something very powerful about saying the words out loud. But of course, if it's before a meeting and things like that, sometimes you can whisper them and sometimes you have to just think them. But they're just that coming back into yourself and remembering who the hell you are is
And you,
so powerful. So thank you for that.
and we can go and do it in the mirror as well and look into our eyes and do it. You know, that's supercharged. Actually, that's like a super turbo charge before we go in, and that's something that I do a lot of because for me, if I look in my eyes, I'm back. I'm back. No one's taking that out of me because it's like, woof, hello, ready to go. So it's so simple. It's so
Yeah,
say like the work is so profound, but it does require more than one person. It requires you need that kind of buddying, that sort of partner, and that's what I love about it because we can do it alone and it's brilliant. But when we do it with each other and when we do it in a community, the power of it because people start to you see the impact on people's
yeah,
faces It comes from deep within, and that's, for me, that is the work that needs to be done, for all of us. And for men, they need
And
their form of it too.
yeah, and that's why, with Wise Women Lead, the work that you and I do there out in the world, yes, we do one-to-one coaching, which is phenomenal, but the work that we do when we bring women leaders, women who want to lead together, is even more profound. But we know that some people, want to do the one-to-one work, and it's available to all. But that's like a bit of a plug, by the way. Let's be really honest. I'm putting an intention and a spell out there. Come work with us. But we're coming to a close now. So I'm going to ask you to start wrapping up, if that's okay, Karen.
So let's take a breath, feel the season's energy around you, that quiet, powerful shift between the light and the dark. If you feel this tug and you sense that something new is calling you, this is your invitation to do this work with us, with a friend, whoever, but definitely do the work. Let this be a turning point. Halloween isn't just a night of costumes and candles. It's an ancient invitation to meet the shadows, to release what's heavy, and to reconnect with your own inner flame.
And remember, you don't need to hide anymore. You don't need to disguise your brilliance just to feel safe. Your truth is your protection. Your power is your light and your dark. The world needs wise women now, more than ever. Women who are brave enough to take off that mask, to step into the dark and lead from truth. So keep your fires burning, sisters. Let it guide you through the dark and back to yourself. And until next time, stay wise, stay witchy, stay wild, and keep saying it, sister. That's it for this episode of Say It, Sister. If it moved you, made you think, or made you even feel seen, hit follow, share it with a sister, and leave us a review.
And remember, your voice has power and your essence is wisdom. So speak your truth and live a true and empowered life. Until next time, say it, sister.